Have you ever been told that you are too emotional, that you should toughen up or keep your feelings in check? You see, society often paints emotions as weakness, something to suppress rather than embracing. But what if I told you that you have been looking at emotions all wrong? What if emotions, whether it is anger, sadness, fear, are actually our greatest strengths? In today's episode, we are gonna be diving deep into the world of emotions. We'll uncover how humans experience them, how we experience them, how different generations handle emotions based on their environment, what happens when we suppress our emotions, and most importantly, how we can channel them for growth, success, and deeper connections. By end of this episode, you might just rethink all you thought you knew about emotions. So let's get started. Hey, lovely people. Welcome to my podcast, Shivam Talks, where we dive into thought provoking and real life discussions. I am Shivam Dhyani, and today we are tackling a question that has sparked debates for generations, which is being emotional a sign of weakness or strength? Stick around because by end of this episode you might just change the way that you see, perceive, or think about emotions. Before we begin further, I would just like to thank you so much for clicking onto this video. I know that if you have clicked on this video, you are someone who is struggling to handle or manage or understand emotions. And here in this podcast, you might get all your answers. So stay tuned. So before we dive into this topic of emotions, let's take a step back and define what emotions really are. So, formally, emotions are complex psychological state that involve three key components: a subjective experience, a psychological response, and a behavioral expression. I know this sounds a little complex. In simple terms, emotions are feelings that we experience in reaction to different situations. So let me explain you the three key components that we just spoke about. Number 1, the subjective experience. This is a personal internal experience of an individual. For example, the way we experience a win or loss. So some people, when they lose, they might get really demotivated, disheartened. But some people, when they lose, they might get motivated to push even further. Second is psychological response, which is emotions trigger physical changes in our body. For example, when you feel fear, our body starts to shiver, our heartbeat starts to race. While, on the other hand, when we experience happiness, we feel light and energetic. Third component is the behavioral experience or behavioral expression, which is how we show our emotions outwards, right? So when we are sad, we cry, tears come out. When we are happy, we smile. You can see on anybody's face, if they are happy, they'll be smiling. So we'll also understand this with few examples. Imagine you just won an award for something you have really worked hard for. Your emotional response could be tears of joy, happiness. So that's emotion at play. On the other hand, if somebody crosses you or crosses your car on the highway, you might get irritated. Frustration might just kick in. That is also emotion at play. Now, another example, Serena Williams. We all know how big she is, the heck of a career she had on tennis. So whether she won or lost any tournament, it was her understanding of channeling emotions, whether she's losing or whether she's winning a shot. So she would channel it to push her further, which made her the success she is. So hold on, hold on. We'll definitely go deep into how we are going to channel. So we are not just going to be talking about what are emotions, what it does. I'll also give you some tips and tricks on how you can harness your emotions to better manage them and also to help you live a fulfilling life. Now that we understand emotions a bit, so let's see how society perceives emotions. So, in this segment, we are going to be talking about common perceptions about emotions. For a long time, emotions have been misunderstood. Many people think that showing emotions makes you weak. And we have heard phrases like, stop being so emotional, be a man, or real men don't cry. All of these phrases are thrown around all the time. But why? But why do we see emotions that way? You see, we are taught to hide emotions from a very early age. Many of us have grown up listening to phrases like being emotional is a sign of weakness, or men don't cry, and girls are often labeled being too sensitive. Second perception we have is logic is valued more than feelings. For example, in workplaces or leadership positions, showing emotions is often seen as sign of weakness, unprofessionalism, or distraction. People believe that decisions should be made with clear head rather than feelings. Third perception, fear of being judged. People feel that if they show their emotions, they might be perceived as somebody who is really unstable, irrational. So they try to hide all their emotions. They try to suppress it. But does suppressing really helps? Or does suppressing emotions create bigger problems? So now let's explore the other side of this argument. So in this segment, we'll talk about the power of emotions. So listen to it carefully. Contrary to what we believe, emotions are not our enemy. They are actually our superpower. So let's break it down. Number one, emotions drive motivation. For example, fear, passion, anger, they all fuel action. They all fuel action. Think of the great leaders that we have. So they have all learned to channel their emotions into achieving greatness. Second point, emotions strengthen relationships. Being emotionally aware allows deeper connections with others because it creates room for empathy, for trust. The third point is emotions guide decision making. Studies have shown again and again that people who lack emotional input struggle with choices or decisions. See, logic alone isn't enough. We need emotions to weigh options effectively. Emotional intelligence, or what we also call EQ these days. People with high EQ are more successful than the people with low EQ because they can navigate through social dynamics in a effective or efficient way. Take Oprah Winfrey for example. She endured a traumatic childhood and many struggles early in her career. Instead of suppressing her pain, she channeled her emotions into storytelling, building deeper connections with her audience. Her ability to express vulnerability and empathy made her one of the most influential media personalities of all time. Her emotional intelligence not only helped her succeed, but it motivated and inspired millions. Now, let's move on to another segment, that is how different generations process or perceive emotions. You see, the way we handle emotions is often influenced by the era we grew up in. Let's look at how different generations typically perceive emotions. First generation is baby boomers. So these are people born between 1946 to 1964. So these right now, these people could be like fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, mothers, great grandmothers. So this generation was raised with the idea that emotions are to be controlled and to be kept hidden. Many boomers were taught to prioritize resilience and duty over emotional experience. Now, you see, in workplaces, they often avoid discussing emotions and prefer to tough it out. Millennials, now we talk about the millennials. These are people between 81 to 96. Millennials have embraced emotions better than baby boomers. So they were raised in an era where emotional and mental awareness was a little normalized. So they were kind of more likely to discuss about emotions, consider emotions in workplace. They are the ones likely to consider for therapy. And they definitely value emotional intelligence as compared to baby boomers. Now, let's talk about our most talked about generation, that is Gen Z. I too belong to a Gen Z generation. So these are the people falling between 1997 to 2012. So this is the most emotionally expressive generation so far. Gen Z, they openly talk about health, self-care, and emotional well-being. With social media as an outlet, they advocate for mental health awareness and don't shy from discussing emotional health or struggles. So each generation has its own way of dealing with emotions, but the shift toward embracing emotional expression is a step in a right direction. When people talk about their emotions, create stronger relationships, develop self-awareness, and build resilience. Embracing emotional expression also normalizes mental health discussion, reducing stigma, encouraging people to seek help when needed. In a long run, a society that values emotional intelligence is the one that is going to thrive both professionally as well as personally. So, this probably is the most anticipated segment that we have today. And many people so casually suppress their emotions, but they do not know its consequences. So, in this segment, we are going to be talking specifically about what happens when we suppress our emotions. So, let's talk about the downside. What happens when we suppress our emotions? When we bottle up our emotions? For that instance, it may seem like a relief, but it has some really major consequences. Number one is the physical impact. Suppressed emotions can lead to stress, anxiety, digestive issues, high blood pressure, or even heart disease. Number two is the emotional outbursts. When emotions are consistently buried, they tend to explode at unexpected moments, often in unhealthy ways, like a breakdown, lashing out, panic attacks. Number three is the relationship strain. In a relationship, if we don't express how we feel, misunderstandings build up, leading to frustration and emotional distancing between two partners or two people in a relationship. Before is the reduced self awareness. Ignoring emotions makes it really difficult to understand ourselves and our triggers, which ultimately limits our own personal growth. Number fifth is what we all are seeing right now in this generation as well, the mental health decline, which is Long term suppression can lead to depression, anxiety, or lack of fulfillment in life. And this is what I see most of the people around me talking about. So now is the segment 5, and don't worry, we are not just going to be talking about emotions and how it impacts us. I'm also going to give you some actionable items so that you can follow, experiment for yourselves, and see if this is something that is really working for you, because these practices are usually something that studies have shown have improved the emotional expression and also the emotional intelligence. For this segment, we'll take example of an emotion, anger. So how can we use or reflect on anger and use it constructively? See, anger is a powerful emotion. So instead of letting it destroy us, we can use it constructively. So here are the step by step approach that you can follow next time whenever you feel angry. Number one is acknowledging your anger. So whenever you feel angry, just recognize what you are feeling at the moment without any judgment. So this is a really important point, because this is what I have experienced as well. Whenever we feel that we are going through anger, most of the people we judge it because of our preconceived notions around anger, that it is a bad emotion. In this podcast, what I'm trying to say is no emotion is bad. Everything is there for a reason. Anger being so powerful. So, number one step that we will do is whenever we feel anger next time, we are going to recognize it, we are going to accept it, and we are not going to judge it or make any conclusions about it. Just let anger be as it is. Number two, pause and breathe. So, if you are someone who reacts immediately to any situation that arises, the number second step after you recognize the feeling, to try your best to step away from that particular moment, maybe for few seconds. So what this will do is this will ensure that you are not reacting to the situation, instead you are responding to it in a way. So this will help you clear your mind a bit and understand that you are feeling the anger, and you can just take your time to respond to it. You see, because when we react immediately to something, especially I've seen people reacting to anger, we usually end up doing something which we don't intend to, just out of our engagement in that particular situation. You see so many crimes happening around, people getting killed. So this could be one of the reason. If they would have taken, or if people took a little time to respond, or a little time to let that emotion be, they would understand instead of reacting to it as soon as possible or at the earliest. So let me not bore you so much. Let's move to the third step, identify the root cause. So any emotions that we feel right now, we are taking example of anger, we have to ask ourselves, why am I feeling angry? We have to ask questions to identify the root cause. So to identify the root cause of any situation, you can consider example of a math problem, or any situation even you are trying to solve in your professional life as well. The right questions that we ask will help us uncover the root cause of our emotion, of the anger that we are feeling at the moment. So ask yourself, why am I angry? Is it injustice? Is it I'm not being heard? Or is it frustration? Let's come to fourth point, which is express your emotion in a healthy manner. So instead of lashing out your emotion, try writing down your thoughts. This is only initially, this is only when you're trying to understand it. So once you get the understanding of, there is a deeper meaning when you are feeling angry, so you might not feel the need to write it anymore. You might understand it, but this is just when you are starting to better manage and understanding emotions. So try writing down your thoughts, or if you don't like to write, try talking to someone. Or the best way is engaging in physical activity or any form of exercise, because it is always important to release our emotion. So, emotion is also an energy. See it as an energy. For example, if you feel angry, you feel that energy, that heavy energy inside of you. You have to channel that energy out. Exercising or engaging in a physical activity, it really helps you channel that energy in a better direction. So, number sixth point is taking the accountability. So this step is really difficult. Also, I understand to implement, but it talks about always using I statements. For example, I feel hurt, I feel fear, I feel angry. So it shifts the blame that we are putting on someone else. It shifts that accountability to us, that it is me who is feeling that. So only then, only once we realize that, we take control of that particular situation and understand that it is up to us now on how we want to feel about it. If we let situations make us feel, he made me feel angry, he made me feel irritated, so we are not going to be able to, we might be able to do something about it, but not everyone every time is going to be our way. So by all of these steps, we are channeling anger into a right direction. And by doing this, we are ultimately gaining or taking the control of that emotion instead of letting that emotion taking control over us. That's it for today's episode. If you found this discussion valuable, do like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Also, comment if you have any other perspective or your opinions differ. And also, for the future discussions or future talks, if you have any suggestions, please drop those in the comment section below. And until next time, keep embracing emotions and use them for growth.